Yes, love's a secret weapon. Yeah!
Hi, I'm Donna Loren.
And I'm Dr. Adam Gerace.
And you are listening to Love's a Secret Weapon podcast.
Welcome to Love's a Secret Weapon podcast with my darling co-host, Dr. Adam Gerace. How are you, Adam, down under?
Hello, it's good to be back with you, Donna. And doing well. We're heading into the cold season, so it's kind of been you know how one day it just flips, and all of a sudden you've gone from sunshine and really no rain in the last I don't know how many months, but all of a sudden we're now in winter, but quite different to what you're experiencing right now.
Well, I understand, and I want to take a moment to celebrate your grandmother, whom I understand is 99 and just went through a bout with pneumonia in a hospital. And how is she doing?
Thank you for asking. Yes, she's 99 and is actually doing quite well. That obviously at any age that's not great, but certainly at near 100 a bout of pneumonia is not good. But she's doing well. She's a tough, very resilient person, and I think we all know those kind of people of that generation, don't we? That she came over here from Italy in the 1950s, and they were set up in a country town, which would have been quite interesting. No language and kind of a mining town back in the 1950s in Australia. So I'm sure the listeners can kind of imagine what that might look like before moving here to Adelaide, I guess, in the early 60s, I suppose. But very resilient and doing well. So thank you for asking.
Well, I suggest you get her pasta and marinara recipe so that you can live that long too.
Isn't that what Sophia Loren said, that everything she has she owes to spaghetti?
Andrea Bocelli as well says, I can't go a day without pasta. That's why I sing like this.
So what's your secret then? Is it, if it's not pasta, what is it?
Oh my gosh, I do love pasta. And I just discovered an angel hair pasta that it just cooks in about less than a blink. It's just miraculous. And I always make my own fresh condiments, garlic and basil, and if I want to saute some mushrooms or add some fresh tomato or something like that. What do you do?
I have got my mother's recipe, so it's a very sort of traditional sauce. It takes a few hours to do, so I don't do it that.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We might need to get the recipes out one day, but the problem with those recipes is I'm very
yum.
Well, yeah, noticing that, but I like being quite precise. I think that's why I like baking dessert and so on, because you're fairly precise with that. But with those recipes, when you ask these people for their recipes, they're like, "Oh, you add that much of Parmesan cheese," and I'm like, well, how much is that much if we were talking grams? And
that's right.
That much. So you've got to just go with that flow and find your own voice with it, I think.
Well, I'm sure you have your magic. And I'm
not
sure
quite up to their level
yet.
but getting there. But it's so nice to be back
and by the way, darling, if I may, just before we get into our interview, which was a very special guest, I just heard another grand bit of information about another great woman who became the first president of Mexico.
Yes, absolutely.
And her name is Claudia Sheinbaum, and I am just applauding and celebrating her life as well, and hope that there is a domino effect on the planet. I want to be next. No, not me personally.
All
I
right.
want my country to be next. My country, not me.
I thought this is news to me. We better get.
No. Oh my goodness.
Never thought of office.
Oh gosh. Oh dear. That's another story. Well, shall we call in for our latest, most incredible guest.
Yes.
And call him in and include him and invite him to speak with our beautiful listeners.
Absolutely. Well, hold tight, Loves the Secret Weapon community, because we do have a special guest joining us in a mere moment. Well, Loves the Secret Weapon community, welcome back, and we're so pleased to be joined by a man who has had parallel but complementary careers as a musician and recording artist, alongside his work as a master piano technician for some of the world's most revered artists. He's now written a fabulous book called Tuned In, Memoirs of a Piano Man, about these careers and his own personal story of how through loss and pain we can tune into our own life's purpose and find meaning. Jim Wilson, what a pleasure. Welcome.
What a pleasure to be here. And Adam, pleasure to meet you. And hello, Donna. And we have a special visitor. My feline friend is roaming around here in the background, and she might be joining in too. So it's a great book for humans, and also a great book for cats, just so you know.
What an endorsement.
Two paws up, she says. Oh,
She's
I love it.
Perfect. What's her name?
Yes, indeed.
What's her name?
Her name is Maxie. She's Maxie the Wonder Cat. She taught herself to do parkour and does flips, and she's just a constant source of amusement for us.
Okay, but Jim, does she do arpeggios?
Well, let's see. Let's give it a go.
Mm-hmm. Anything can happen when we're recording.
Anything can happen, yes. Thank you so much for reading the book.
So, yes, thank you for letting us know about the book. And of course, we met, well, it must have been between 2010 and 2014 when you tuned my 1877 Steinway in Beverly Glen Canyon.
Yes.
That's how we met.
That's how we met. And I just remember what a wonderful, vibrant spirit. And I always just enjoyed conversations with you. You are such a wonderful human being, and it really comes through when everything you do. You're such a sweet soul.
Well, that's why we started this podcast, Jim, is because love is my favorite 4-letter word, and that's what we're all about. And
I love that.
And the three of us coming together even magnifies and amplifies our love, sending that out to the universe and all the hearts that are opening, which is just magnificent. And they're opening up to your beautiful story. And would you give us the honor of reading your introductory beautiful chapter that's gonna blow everybody's mind?
Okay. Just to set this up a tiny bit. So this book is something I began in the pandemic, and I picked one of the highlights of my life, which you'll hear about in just a second, and then I thought what a great way to intro this book is to start with this moment, and then kind of work backwards from there, going how in the hell does an insecure West Texas kid end up sitting on the same piano bench as Paul McCartney, singing Beatles songs, et cetera, et cetera. So. And funny enough that you would make this request, and you're the first, by the way. I love this because we're recording an audiobook version of Tuned In. And I will tell you, my goodness, because I left some blood on the page. It's more than just a bunch of celebrity stories of, hanging out with Paul McCartney and Elton John and Phil Collins and Dan Fogelberg and Carole King. It is those things, but as I began writing this, you got to leave some blood on the page. And the memoirs that really connect with me are the ones where they are willing to be vulnerable and to open up and reveal their humanity. So I just started opening a vein and letting it pour. So it's been a really heavy experience doing this, recording the audiobook. I'm just emotionally spent at the end of each day, but I think it's going to be really, really good. And I'm so excited. That'll be the big announcement. This is actually the very first time I've mentioned it anywhere. So,
sweetheart, may I interrupt you just before you begin your beautiful oration?
Yes.
And that, from everything I'm experiencing and learning in life, that what you've taken on to express yourself, opening your heart to your life, the dark, the light, all the experiences, and facing the shadows. To me, that takes so much courage, and the energy that it takes to deal with that makes space for the new. And today is a new moon. Today is June the 6th. It's a new moon in Gemini, which is about communication, collaboration, and new beginnings. I commend you. I applaud you for having the courage to go into these shadows, go into the light, and share it with all. It gives other people the courage to do the same.
Yeah, well, that's it. I really want my stories to be of service to people. And yes, I want people to be amused by some of these incredible stories that I've been given, this extraordinary, rocket ship built for one, and have these one-off experiences. But my journey, I had some hard left hooks, and I was forced at one point in my life, which we'll get to in the interview, to reevaluate my whole mission. Is this it? Is that everything you wanted to do? Just to be a big, cool, hotshot celebrity piano guy? And so I really had to tune in to my higher purpose. What is my purpose? So, and it morphed from when I first came out here to Los Angeles. So with that, shall we jump into?
I love that. Thank you, Jim.
Prologue, Meet the Beatle, August 30th, 1985. You must be Jim. He calls me by my name. And just like that, I'm once again the 8-year-old boy who obsessed over this icon's hit songs, the pudgy kid who yearned to enrapture fans with music, the dreamer whose life direction was shaped by the trail this legend blazed. Feels like I have cotton in my mouth. Amazingly, my lips move, words come out. And I'm guessing you must be, I want to say, Paul? He laughs. He laughs and extends his hand. My anxiety begins to ease. I've met and worked for quite a number of celebrities by now, but this is Paul McCartney, a friggin' Beatle. His music has underscored my whole life, made me cry, laugh, sing at the top of my lungs, worked its way deep into my musical DNA. This is like meeting Mozart, Gandhi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi rolled into one. I mean, here's a guy who's literally changed the world with his music. But I don't have the luxury of succumbing to nervousness. I'm here on a limited mission to install an adapter in Paul McCartney's piano and show him how to work it. Thankfully, I can speak with assuredness about the adapter installation. I even suggest ways I could improve the touch and tone of his Hamburg Steinway B grand piano. Have I overstepped my bounds? But he smiles. Have at it, he says. We agree to meet the following morning. I ask what time. Tinish anyone? He gives a grin and his iconic raised eyebrow. That a figure from the musical version of Mount Rushmore enjoys a corny dad joke puts me further at ease. Alone in his studio, I hit pause for a second to take in where I am. Hog Hill Mill, an 18th century windmill overlooking the English Channel that Paul's converted into his personal recording studio. Scanning the room, I see the usual trappings: amps, guitars, microphones, an ISO booth where vocals are recorded, rows of console tape with mixer markings stuck on the wall. But this isn't just any studio. It's the Santa's workshop where one of the most extraordinary musical geniuses of our time transforms the ideas in his head into reality. I sneak a closer look at the dozen drawings taped to the wall. Puzzled by these peculiar pictographs, I squint my eyes and try to decipher the first one. I slowly realize this is Paul's clever way to represent his vision of each song's mix. Each graphic is a roadmap of sorts, using different shapes drawn with felt pens to depict the positioning of each element in the mix. A red circle in the middle represents the vocal. 2 green ovals to either side represent the stereo guitars. A black rectangle at the bottom symbolizes the bass. I take in the row of guitars. 10 instruments in a stand is not unusual. I've seen as many in countless LA studios. But these guitars, one in particular, has a distinctive shape that stops me in my tracks. I hold my breath as I ponder the history of Paul's left-handed Hofner bass, one of the most iconic instruments in all of modern music. What would it have been like to stand on stage enthralling screaming fans with this Hofner at Liverpool's Smoky Cavern Club, on the Ed Sullivan Show, in Shea Stadium, or atop the Apple building at that legendary rooftop concert? Drawing closer, the bass line to Come Together starts playing in my head, followed by Taxman, then Day Tripper. This instrument has anchored countless Beatle classics. At the Louvre, 15 feet is as close as you can get to the Mona Lisa. Glancing left and right as if there were a docent standing guard, I reach toward the strings and lightly pluck the low E. Man, if this thing could speak. Late into the night, I worked to regulate, voice, tune, and install the Forte MIDI mod, the world's first MIDI adapter for acoustic piano. Just a couple of years earlier, I had the good fortune of having a hand in its development. Bartolomeo Cristofori's pianoforte was fashioned from its meek predecessor, the clavichord, 300 years ago. Now, for the first time, it could connect to the new world of electronics via our adapter.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a full circle moment.
Yeah. This has been like this when I've been reading this, because I do get kind of choked up sometimes. It's like, good God, man.
Now here are those 4 great guys we've enjoyed working with so much here in England tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The entertainment phenomenon of the century, the Beatles!
My tears are falling like
And not to race ahead like a Ferrari, but Jim, this adapter that you're installing in Steinways.
Yeah.
The next person that impacted me was a young woman named Carole King.
Yes. Yeah.
You actually went on a road trip with her?
Yes. It's
can you please share that story with us?
No, sorry.
No, that's for the book.
Oh, okay. All right. I shall.
Well, why don't we,
Yes, of
before
course
we
I'll
get
share.
to Carole, because I know we definitely want to speak about the Carole King.
Ironic here. Let me just read the next two paragraphs or so. Looking back, it's humbling to think that I, a diffident kid from a small West Texas town, would become a part of a bridge from 17th century northern Italy to a recording studio on the south coast of England, belonging to one of the world's most influential recording artists. For many years, I was about the only guy on the planet you could get the MIDI mod from. I had the honor of servicing the royalty of rock: Elton John, Phil Collins, Keith Emerson, Pete Townsend, Lionel Richie, Bruce Springsteen. But Paul McCartney had been my first musical hero. I wanted to deliver above and beyond his expectations. And then, I go on with the prologue to describe that, first meeting with Paul and sitting on the same piano bench and singing Beatles songs and him telling me all kinds of stories, and this magical 4-hour hang, at the end of which he says, anytime you're in the UK, just give us a bell. So I did. I went to his Homer studio a dozen times, and in the limo ride on the way back to London, I'm thinking, this is so crazy. And as you said, one of the other things that would come out of my helping develop the MIDI-adaptor was all these other interactions with these legends. And Carole King was somebody whose piano I'd been tuning, and then she heard about this adapter installation I'd been doing, and she calls me and says, "Hey, would you do the installation on my piano at my ranch in Idaho?" And she said, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be driving up there. I have a U-Haul. I'm going to be taking some stuff up there. It'll be a 2-day drive, but we could, it'd be a fun hang, and we'll hang out at the ranch and for a week, and then I'll fly us back first class.
Wow.
Okay, let me think about that.
For a minute.
She's amazing. She's just a really great conversationalist, a very caring person, really obviously very bright. And my God, what stories to tell. Well, she was telling me about the days, 2 days. You have 2 days in a car, and just limitless opportunities to talk about everything or nothing. And as it happened, my brother had died of a heroin overdose just prior to that trip. And she sensed that something was off, and I get in the car, and she asked what's going on, and I thought, what the hell, do I want to sit here and just talk about the weather for 2 days? Or so I said, well, as a matter of fact, my brother just passed away, and I'm hurting pretty bad. So she pulled over and just was so comforting, but because I decided to just go there, that set the tone for the rest of the 2-day drive. And let's just jump in. Let's just jump into this thing. And so it led to the deeper questions of, well, what does happen when people die, and the existential stuff, the heavy stuff. And so we would talk about our philosophies, and I had just read a book when my brother died. It was called Life After Life by Dr. Raymond Moody. And the beauty of that book is that it was able to hot wire and circumvent all of my skepticism, because it's not religion, it's not philosophy, it's not theology, it's not some man at a podium telling you what to think. It's a psychiatrist, Dr. Raymond Moody, who had interviewed 150 people who had died and come back from that experience. And the commonality of their experiences was enough, like I said, to hotwire my skeptical brain, and to jump into just right into, I could see this, it resonated with me that you know, people would typically kind of go out of their body and look down on the crash scene or the hospital bed or whatever. They had some kind of omniscience, and they could tell what was being said or thought by people. And they recalled everything, even after they were flatlined, and there was no brain activity whatsoever. And then they were greeted by friends and family who had gone before, and then they were kind of taken away into this dark tunnel, and there's light at the end of the tunnel, and they all talked about their experience of what that light was. Okay, so when they do eventually come back, because it's not their time, they are describing that experience of the infinite in finite terms, and what our rational mind uses through its five senses. This is what I experienced. And you know, I think it's so far beyond our rational mind's ability to comprehend that we struggle and we grasp to figure out ways to label it. Well, you can't. It's literally beyond our comprehension. So, but these people all kind of were drawn to this light, which was just pure unconditional love. And for some people, they came back and they said it was Jesus. Other people said it was this or that, but it was always this kind of bathed in this unconditional love and judgment, quote unquote, in that. And not like, all right, you're naughty or nice. It's more like review. How did it go? People, you know, you hear about people saying my life flashed before my eyes. It literally does. You know, almost everybody that died and came back had the experience of just the frame by frame or just some kind of viewing of their life. And it wasn't like you've been naughty or nice. It was more like, let's review.
Yeah.
How'd it go for you, Donna? Did you feel all right? It was all right? You feel pretty good?
Yeah. You know, it's experience. It's each one of ours experiences in this lifetime.
That's right. That's right. And everybody's going to have a totally different take on it. I'm sure there are people who've died and come back, and they all have a totally different take on it.
And that's interesting that you're talking about this, because, you know, the idea of writing a memoir is reviewing that in the living, which is really interesting.
Right on, Dr. Adam. Now, Jim, you realize we're in the company of a psychologist. So if you make yourself comfortable and recline.
You have a couch, it always is good. But you know, you're talking about this idea of being with Carole King, and I think, Jim, in your book, what's really interesting is you're talking about these legends, and you're in some ways still that giddy kid in Amarillo, Texas, who's you know, saw these people on TV and is now with them and having to manage that. But like you said, when you were willing to go there with someone, human to human, no matter how successful Carole King was, you could have that conversation about this, which we all experience, this idea that we all sit in this unknown all our lives. We don't know where we're going. We don't know where that's going to end up. And that's something that is fundamental to being human. But in sharing with that loss with her, you were able to have this existential sort of question. And so, or conversation. And so I'm interested in, again, that idea of how did you get there? How does a kid from Amarillo, Texas, get to experience all these things as your musician yourself, which we're going to talk about, but also your work with these masters? How did that all start for you? Take us back there.
Yes, please.
Well, as I said, you know, in the limo ride back from London, I'm thinking, how did I get here? And it really all came back to this one beautiful gesture that was made by a friend of my mom's. So what I just read to you was part of the prologue, and chapter 1 is called The Guitar. So I'm about 7 years old, and my mom comes in and says, hey, I'm going to go run an errand. You know, come with me. So sure, it beats doing homework. So I jump in her car and we go to her friend Toy's house. What an interesting name for a man, Toy. And so, you know, he's an interesting guy, lanky figure with the ever-present Marlboro, and they're talking grown-up talk and drinking Chardonnay, and I'm thinking, you know, I wanted to amuse myself, so I look around the room and there's all these art drawings, you know, and there's these brass statues that my mom and Toy had made in their art class. And then over in the corner of the room, I see this guitar leaning against the wall. You know, I'm 7. I'd only seen one on TV. Roy Rogers played one, and so I'm intrigued, and I sneak over to it, and I pick it up, and I kind of pluck a couple of little notes on it. And when we were leaving, Toy says, "Hey, I saw you plucking around on that guitar. Did you like it?" I said, "Yeah, it's really cool." And he goes, "Take it. It's yours."
And that just changed everything.
And those 4 words,
yeah,
they changed the direction of my life. You know, and because I could now discover music on my own terms. And piano, I just thought, you know, if music is about these stupid dots and sticks on a printed page, I don't want anything to do with it. But now I could discover it as a right-brain kid to listen and kind of pluck around and figure out, you know, chords, etc. So now it gave me an identity. I'm now the musician, you know, and I was a kid struggling to fit in, and I felt kind of out of place, and I felt like a vagrant looking through a window at things that were for people of privilege, not for me, people, worthy people. But when I went home and plunked around on that guitar, I felt cool. So finally I had something that gave me pleasure, that I could identify with, and I could improve. And the more, you know, the better I got at it, the better I felt about myself, the more self-esteem I built. And it really was that. And in my book, I have the running theme of the power of one, I call it. How one moment, one gesture, one chance encounter can change the direction of your whole life. And then in the case of Toy, it did. It clearly gave me something that I could, you know, like I said, have an identity, and it changed everything. So that was ground zero for me, and music became kind of my salvation and my chance to express my emotions and to turn pain into purpose, you know.
Yeah.
So that was that, and then years after that, I would began, you know, taking my James Taylor guitar riffs and transfer those to piano, and that became kind of the root of my musical style. Yeah.
May I insert something, since you brought up James? So little known, in the 70s, I was married to a record producer who was producing James.
Oh my, who is that?
Lenny Waronker.
Oh my gosh.
And James, by the way, does not read a lick of music.
Right.
Okay. And James was living nearby while they were recording an album, and they were doing How Sweet It Is. And what a great record.
Oh my.
And lo and behold, Christmas came, and got a knock on the door, and opened the door, and there's James and Carole and Russ Titleman and his lady friend at the time singing Christmas carols.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Well, I too kind of had a little bit of a full circle James Taylor moment, and I do talk about this in the book, where in the middle of the pandemic, I got an email from Arlo Guthrie, one of my childhood
another
heroes.
One of Lenny's artists.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
Lenny produced City of New Orleans.
Oh my gosh. Wow, you're there too. You've been at ground zero. It's pretty amazing.
We have a lot of connection, really. We have a really good connection and a wonderful catalyst to bring us together. Perfect.
So Arlo reached out to me, and he said, rolling through my second cup of coffee this morning. He said, "You don't know me, but I'm a big fan of your music, and rolling through my second cup of coffee this morning, I got an idea. Call me crazy, but I think with your wonderful piano voicings and my voice, we could do a cool rendition of Hard Times Come Again No More." This is unbelievable. right? It's a 160-year-old song that's written by Stephen Foster. So I did my version of it, my kind of thing, and he said, "Oh, that's perfect." So we recorded it, made a music video. We became friends. He said, "Anytime you're back east, give us a shout." So my girlfriend Virginia and I went to his place near Stockbridge, Massachusetts.
Right.
And to bring this back to James Taylor, so their nearest neighbor had been the Taylors, the Taylor family. And this is way back when. And James Taylor was a good friend. And before he got to start with the record deal that he had, or when he was first getting started, he came and he stayed on Arlo's property in a guest house and in the Berkshires. And James wrote this song about the Berkshires seem dreamlike on account of that frosting. Sweet Baby James. He wrote that song in Arlo's house. So I got to sing that song with Arlo at the same property where James had written this song, My Hero. So it was kind of this wonderful full circle moment, right?
Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. While we seek mirth and beauty and music light and gay, there are frail forms fainting at the door. Though their voices are silent, their pleading looks will say, oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more.
And just thinking about that idea, because you talk about in your book that you went to college and you studied music theory and all that, but then we also were talking about this idea of just finding music naturally in these people who they might not read music or they might not think that way, and sort of marrying that theory. You talk about how you had all this sort of theory and ideas, and then you would come across these artists who that wasn't the way that they did stuff, and you had to feel it instead.
Yes, there was a moment. So after that first meeting with McCartney, I went, oh my God, this is just incredible. And he felt like a chum, a buddy, And I thought, me being the cheeky bastard that I am, I think, God, I know that, I wonder if he'd be up for writing a song with me. What an audacious thing to even think. And yet I knew that if I had the at bat and I didn't take the swing, I know myself well enough that I would forever, ever, ever beat myself up for not having to. I would rather face the humiliation in the moment rather than beat myself up forever. So anyway, I'm back in my hotel room in London, Sunday night, finally take a shot of tequila, and I muster the nerve to, so Paul, how you doing? Hey, man, how you doing? Yeah, I was just thinking of, be nice to have you come by and see the pianos and et cetera. So, and I said, great. Well, hey, listen, I've got this song that I'm kind of working on and it needs a lyric and a long beat. And he starts winding me up. I said, oh, I see. A Texan comes over here. He wants to write with the Beatles. Is that it? Winding me up. And he has a laugh because he knows that I'm kind of sweating making this. He said, sure, I'd love to hear it. So we set up a time for me to come to his home. I've been to his studio, but now I'm going to go to his home. It's all on the south coast of England. So I arrive, bright and early and have tea and bickies with him and Linda. And and we laid out this house, and he talked about the design of his house and how he had the concept himself. And just sat down with some circles and rectangles and sort of made this whole thing up. It's just so genius. After a nice little chat, he goes, right then, let's go hear your song. So we go into his music room. It's like the fingers are kind of going, okay, pal, this is it. This is what you asked for. So just be here. And I just kind of mustered the courage, and I broke out into this song idea and sang it. And, you know, I didn't have the lyrics, but I had the melody. So I just kind of sang a couple of dummy words, dummy lyrics, we call them, here and there. I'll be here tomorrow was one of them. Oh, no, that's nice. It's nice. Play it again. So I play it again, and he jumps in on the chorus with this that he's just heard. And he does this perfect harmony throughout. And, you know, as he's singing, you're going, this is really happening.
Yeah.
Just be here. Just roll with it. And so, you know, it was really incredible. And the song, coming back to your question earlier, Adam, was the song had a bit of a modulation in the middle. It goes from the key of C, and then, to use music theory parlance, I did a 2-5-1, and I went up into E flat, and then I went, you know, D minor 7 to over G, 2-5-1 back down to C. And I said, how'd you like the modulation? And he goes, it modulated? I said, well, yeah, you know, where it's in C, and then it goes 2-5 up into E flat, and then 2-5 back down into C. And he goes, yeah, I like it when it goes from the black keys to the white keys.
Yes, of course.
And I looked at him. Waiting for the elbow and the ribs. It's like, oh, wait a minute. No, this guy changed the world with his music, and that's how he thinks of a modulation. You know, clearly he employs modulations all the time and uses them. It's just, it's not a head thing. It's more of a visceral thing. He feels, I mean, think of, you know, that incredible modulation in Penny Lane or Day in Life, just all these different things that he knows how to do, but just doesn't use the technical parlance, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's just like a prime example in your book of that time of the need to be present when all this crazy stuff is happening, the need to be completely in the moment. And Donna, you could probably speak to this because I know we've spoken about it before, but you know, your process of connecting with music. Can you talk us about that, or perhaps you want to go all the way back because Jim was starting, you know, when he was a child with that guitar, and you know, you on a swing, a tire swing, which you've told our listeners before, of connecting with some music at a time that perhaps your family life was quite chaotic, and similar to what Jim speaks about in his book about a divorce. So, yeah, Donna, what's your thoughts on that? All of that.
I totally align with, you know, feeling. And I did have, you know, a little bit of training, just a tiny bit of training, just to know the basic scale, and but never to be classically trained or you know, I can put up a sheet music and follow the chords and maybe pick out a note here or there, but it's not essential. It's more about feeling. And when you hear something and it touches your heart, and it stays, it just goes in deep. But I have to also say that I also think that the greats, going back to Beethoven and Mozart, that what they heard, don't you think, Jim? You know, it's like the divine energy that comes through, and you're the lucky recipient. And whether you're 4 years old or it doesn't really matter, you know, it's like you were chosen to be the one to manifest it. And, you know, and it's just an amazing experience when you have that flowing, whatever creativity you have flowing through you.
Yes.
It's never claimed to be yours, right?
Right. Where does it come from? I mean, that's an ongoing question. Where exactly does it come from? I do tell the story in my book about my very first album. We'll get to all these things later, but my very first album, Northern Seascape, and I'd just begun recording it. We had recorded 4 piano tracks, and my engineer and I were listening to all 4 piano tracks in a row. They happened to be the slowest tempo of all the tracks that would eventually end up on there. And I thought to myself, man, I really need something it would be nice to have something lighthearted to balance out this album with. Something kind of lighthearted. And I thought, shoot, I'm not a right on demand kind of guy. So, oh, well, maybe the next album I do, I'll have that song. So it was late. I went to sleep and I was having this dream that I was driving through a forest, and it's this beautiful dark forest, and there's this mist, I'm driving through this mist. And on the radio is this little piano melody. And oh my God, what is that? That's beautiful. And I'm driving in my dream, and wow, oh man, that's beautiful. And I reach over for the volume dial in my dream, and I turn it up, and I'm listening as intently. And then I'm thinking, who is this? And then the radio announcer in my dream goes, and that's the latest from Sheryl Crow. And in my dream, I'm thinking, wait, Sheryl Crow, this is a piano. And then I slowly start waking up, and I go, oh, this is being given to me by
yes,
where, by something. So, but I knew in that dream state, it's like, do this slowly, just go over the melody again and again. This is what I'm hearing. It jumps a third there. It's a bar of 2 there. Very quietly, just grab onto this thing, bring that from the ether into reality slowly. And so once I've kind of had a handle on it, I went to the piano, and that song became exactly what the album needed, called Heart of Innocence. So that little melody, that little piece is what I heard, and that I evolved that, and how could I keep, working on that theme? But that's the thing that came to me in a dream. And so, okay, was that in my subconscious? Did where does that come from? Is it from other worlds? Who knows, man? But that's the beauty of music, is that it's just so amorphous, and it's so it's ethereal, and
so many artists talk about that, don't they? And they allow that idea of, I don't know where it comes from, but when it does come, you've just got to be receptive for it.
Right.
That's right. Dylan is the classic, example of that. He never claims to have written anything,
Yeah.
But may I also bring up the idea that when someone is in that incredible creative space, that they receive this beautiful information and then be able to actualize it. Somebody that you worked with for many, many years, Burt Bacharach, you knew for decades. He was so stylized, and that's an interesting angle, that so many musicians that get the information, but somehow it's very identifiable that it's theirs. They put their signature on it, and Burt Bacharach is definitely one of those.
He is, and you're absolutely right, man. He's a one-off in the whole lexicon of musicians and composers, and those melodies is like, my goodness, they're just uniquely Burt Bacharach, and those songs are just phenomenal. And I love telling this story. It's not in the book, so you've got an exclusive.
Yay!
Alert the media. This is so he passed, I guess, about a year ago. Well, about two years before he passed. He's already like a 90-year-old man. He hears me. He's been a tuning client for like 35 years, and I've got to know him quite well. And he's a lovely, lovely man. And he came to respect and appreciate my musicality. And he gave me some really lovely blurbs about my music. And he would play me stuff from time to time. But this one, he's 90 years old. And he hears me in the living room, and he comes down. Hey, Jim, how you doing? He's really frail by this time. I'm doing great, Burt. Great to see you. How are you, my friend? Hey, you want to hear something new? And I'm thinking, my God, to be that lit up still at 90, the very thing that lit you up when you were a 14-year-old boy, whatever his story is, when you're 12, when you hear something on the radio and go, boom, that's it. That's what I want to do. To be that lit up at 90. So he sat down and he played me the thing. He could barely kind of warble it out. And if you listen, if you'd have heard that at that moment, you think, okay, I guess that's a song. But then a recording was made of that with, a proper in a studio with a great singer singing it. And it's incredible. My God, this guy is, like I said, to be that lit up at 90 by the same pilot light that you were as a teen, so amazing.
And to find something to do,
Paul Simon, same thing. Paul Simon,
still at it, man.
You can't turn it off. You can't turn it off. And I know that my former husband was involved when Paul was in a kind of dry spell for, I think, almost 5 years. He's like, I can't, a song is not coming after all the major songs that he wrote. And I think one thing led to another. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover was like the psychiatrist's recommendation. Well, write a song of 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover or something like that. And,
oh my God.
And then he went off to Africa, to do Graceland. But
wow. Isn't that amazing?
But yeah, I mean, I think that, you and I will probably, I don't know, be blessed to recline on the keys. You never know.
That's not a terrible way to go. I guess just put me in my Yamaha C7 and lower the whole thing down in the ground.
I'm just thinking there's a beautiful. I was going to say, sorry, there's a beautiful cinema here that the guy plays the organ before the movie starts. And
nice.
The floor, and
Old
I was just
school.
getting the picture of that. Yeah. Right, not a bad way to go. And Jim, when you were talking about that idea of Burt Bacharach finding something at 12, 14, whatever age it was, and that was what he was going to do. We're talking about your two sort of parallel careers, your career as a musician, and it's very you've done great albums and you've gotten great reviews and you've won awards for this. But then we're also talking about your work as a piano tuner. Now, take us back early on. So you're starting off, you're in college, you're around that age, and you're starting to think music might be it. Tell us about that. How did that start? What were you doing? Who were you performing with? And then, of course, it segues into this parallel career as a piano tuner.
Yeah.
And also, before you begin, sweetheart, what about the transition from your love of guitar to then piano?
Yes. Well, like I said, guitar was something that I could relate to on my own terms and not, be stuck with these stupid dots and sticks on a page. And do regret. I do wish I could read music, but I really can't. It's very laborious for me. People always assume that I can, but so my stepfather did the one magnanimous gesture that he ever did my whole life, which was to give me an upright piano. So I'm 19, moved out of his house, and I think as kind of probably as a consolation prize of saying thank you for leaving me, you reprobate hippie, you. He said he took me down to Tolzien's Music and said, here, pick out any one of these. And he took me to the room with the old clunker uprights. And there was this old Fisher upright for $150. So we had that moved into my little apartment. I started taking my James Taylor riffs and transferring them to piano. And then, okay, and I can get that. And here's this chord. And, you know, I just do love the way a piano is laid out, where you've got 10 voices. You know, you can play so much, you know, bass in the left hand, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then once I started finding my way on piano, then I started composing a little bit on piano. And like I said, the original dream was the original dream for moving to Los Angeles was to be a hit songwriter. That's my big hero at the time, and still is, Jackson Browne. He just is a phenomenal artist who writes about the human condition and in this wonderful, brilliant way. So, as I like to say, piano tuning was a means to support myself. And when I moved to LA, and so I moved to LA to become the next Jackson Browne, and instead became the next Jackson Browne piano tuner. So, which is okay. The whole dream kept moving and shifting. So back to Amarillo, I'm playing some solo gigs, some guitar gigs around town. I know that songwriting in LA is in my future. I don't know quite how it's going to manifest itself. I meet with the manager to say, hey, get me some more solo guitar gigs, you know. He said, well, I don't have any of those, but there's a band, very popular band at the time, called Easy. They were kind of a little bit of a show band, and they're looking for a bass player. You play electric bass, don't you, Jim? I said, yes, absolutely. Lying through my teeth. I never played one in my life. I said, when are the auditions? Tell me when, and I'll be there. He said, Monday. So that was a Friday afternoon. I went straight to the Billy's Band-Aid. I got a Fender Jazz bass on consignment. I worked my ass off all week long, 8 to 10 hours a day, just listening, working up, transferring my guitar chops to bass, and just working at bass lines. I went to on that Monday to the audition, and I impressed them enough for them to get a toehold. And over a period of 2 weeks, I just kind of was so relentless that I finally wore them down. And said, okay, you got the gig. So that was my experience of playing in a band back in Amarillo. And you asked, what about piano tuning? How did that occur? Well, and the keyboard player in that band could tune pianos. And I thought, wow, what a great way to go off and make $25, you know, which was what it was at the time. And so I, you know, instead of doing it like Charlie did, I thought, I want to do this right. I want to learn it, you know, the right way. So I wrote to all the piano tuning schools in America, and I got a list of 20 piano tuning schools, wrote to every one of them, hand wrote these letters. All of them came back saying no longer in existence, moved, no forwarding address, return to sender, except for 3. And of those 3, the best one would be Cleveland, in Cleveland, Ohio, Perkins School of Piano Tuning and Technology. And so I went there, and I thought, I'm just going to learn tuning as a little means to support myself in LA. Cut to, I do finally move to LA, and it begins taking off, and it becomes this more than just a way of supporting myself. It's something I do really well, and I take pride in, and just one thing led to another. And within just weeks of arriving in LA, I'm already tuning for Chick Corea, who is a legendary jazz pianist, and which led to Janis Ian and Seals and Crofts and Supertramp and a lot of recording studios. And it just kind of kept growing and growing. And then here's another of those Power of One moments. So I'm tuning the piano at Name That Tune. Remember that TV show?
Yes,
Name That Tune?
of course.
I'm tuning. Well, they have a piano where they go, I can name that tune in 5 notes. Blah, 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 you know. So I was tuning the piano on the set. I'm by myself, And across the way, I see this guy that I think, God, I wonder if that's this guy Chuck Monty, who is kind of famous around town for a modification that he did to Fender Rhodes keyboard.
Oh.
And I was kind of late. I didn't have any business in stopping what I was doing, but I thought, no, I want to introduce myself. So I got up, introduced myself. That was Chuck Monty. It was the Fender Rhodes guy. And that one decision to get up and introduce myself would lead to me working on his piano, and then him introducing me to the guys who were developing this original MIDI adapter for acoustic piano. And I became the guy, you know, on the planet when MIDI was first taking off. I was pretty much the only guy on the planet you could get this MIDI adapter from. So it was a magic carpet ride, and it's kind of that power of one moment again, you know, where just one little decision, one moment can set the trajectory for the rest of your life. And it's because of that one moment I would meet McCartney and Elton and all these other people and have this magical carpet ride.
Is there one song that we can exemplify the use of the MIDI mod?
Well, let's see. I guess the first one that kind of broke through, it was used a lot. So in the sound that you're talking about is, so it's an adapter that goes underneath the keys. There's 88 switches. And when you press down on your piano key, your piano will make it sound like it normally does. But also underneath, when you're pressing the key, you're also pressing this switch, which sends an electronic MIDI signal out of your piano. And it's all digital information saying, Donna just played note number 83 at a velocity of blah, blah, blah for a duration of blah, blah. So that's MIDI information. So one of the first times that it got really popularized was St. Elmo's Fire.
Oh, great.
David Foster. I think you can probably hear it's the layering. He chose to use that adapter to layer the piano sound with the Fender Rhodes sound. So what he's playing on the piano is being doubled with the Fender Rhodes sound, which is one application that you can use for this.
Yeah. And does it feel the same for the artist? Like the artist playing it, it still feels the same as...
Still feels the same. The original switches were a little bit heavy. So that was one of my contributions to this thing, was like, listen, as a pianist, I'm telling you, we got to make these switches lower profile. We got to make them lighter weight. And so what a magic carpet ride.
You know,
tell us more about Elton. You want to hear about Elton?
Look at you being a name dropper today, Donna.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, you know, as all these things are going down, you're just going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here, you know, with all these masters. And what a great dude. You know, the first time I met him, I was so starstruck. And there's the whole England thing started with somebody was producing, Bob Gaudio, in fact, the Four Seasons producer, was producing the soundtrack to Little Shop of Horrors, a movie.
Love it.
Martin, yeah, way back.
Great film.
And Bob Gaudio is talking to David Paich of Toto, and he says,
"Oh, right.
Hey, I'm going to be doing the soundtrack for this new movie, and I want something a little bit different." And oh, well, you got to get Jim Wilson to MIDI the piano. So that led to them flying me to the UK to install a MIDI adapter for the piano that was going to be used on the Little Shop of Horrors soundtrack. The ironic thing is that when you listen to the Little Shop of Horrors soundtrack, you can barely hear the piano.
That's true.
So, but that's what led me to the UK, and I'm thinking, well, as long as I'm going there, why don't I shake the trees? So I called David Foster, who had worked with McCartney, and he of course he wanted to be the guy to tell him about the hippest new thing, for his piano. And then I called somebody else who knew the roadie for Elton John, etc. And then so it was in that first meeting of Elton. It was in the 1985, 86. I'm over there at his home studio and do work on pianos, and there he comes around the corner to say hello. And he was late the limo was going to pick him up to whisk him off to Heathrow to come to LA to record That's What Friends Are For. Yeah. So that's the era that it was. But anyways, it was really great to meet him, and he's larger than life. Some of these guys are just there's meeting celebrities, and then there's meeting Elton John. Meeting a Beatle is about the most intimidating thing. I'm telling you, it's especially for any of us who kind of grew up and that music's in our DNA, and when you see that person, it's just so profound. Because their music has shaped you. It's just impacted me from childhood, So it's like meeting Gandhi, or like I said,
Is that Donna? Is that different for you? Because of course you were one of those artists on Shindig and around those people, but you were also one of those people. Has there ever been that moment for you where you met someone like that and it was just like, wow, this is all, or was it because you were so involved in it from such a young age that that's not quite the way that myself or Jim might experience it? You would have a different experience.
My dear doctor, my dear Dr. Adam, he always asks these marvelous, very deep questions.
Oh, don't worry, I've got plenty more today. Don't you worry.
Well, there is the hardwiring that I have of, who my self-worth is based on what other people think of me. That's the faulty OS operating system. It's faulty wiring, but it is what it is. It's like, and just I accept that that's kind of how I'm wired, but you have to rise above that. No, my value is not based on what other people think of me. My value is based on what who I believe myself to be, and I'm the person who determines the narrative. But regardless, there is that wiring. So when the celebrities are bigger than life people, and so there is kind of that thing of I'm little old Jimmy, and then they're big, But if you can get into that zone of just interacting with them as another person, then things start moving and conversations start happening, and there's certainly a lesson to be had there.
I think that what you do and what my experience was and is, and yours as well, my dear doctor, is that we are all contributing whatever comes from within us. And when you're interacting, that's basically what you just want to be at your best. You want to be centered, you want to be balanced, and you want to be as open as you can and as present as you can, so that you can give all that you have. And in that moment, in the moment of the experience is not when you feel that someone is, let's say more iconic or something like that, but stepping back and reflecting is when you're like, oh my God, I was just on the same stage with Ray Charles. How did that happen?
Yeah, you just do what you can to be in the moment.
My dear Jim, what I would like to do, we've talked a lot about your career, but I recall when you said you're talking about the pain that you experienced, and on this podcast, a lot of people in a more modified way do bare their soul a bit, so that we can feel like we're all together in the same soup, and that we're all, we all have the desire to heal and relate. So could you please explain the pain that you were feeling?
Yeah. Well, as I said, my book is about the fun celebrity interactions, but really the meat of the book for me is part 3, and the profound thing of my friend, my closest friend, dying of a heart attack at the age of 37. And that shattered me. My brother had died 10 years prior, and that, of course, shattered me. But I don't know, he was dabbling in drugs, and maybe you could see that one coming. But my friend Claude was my North Star. My friend Claude we used to do mastermind sessions and talk about our dreams and support each other. And we'd work out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he had this dream of, he was going to be, he was already a really successful songwriter with hits by Celine Dion and, and a bunch of other people. It's like, man, just watch this guy, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it's done. This is how you manifest a dream. Just stand back and watch. And he had this dream of being married. He was going to be married and have, his home life, and he could visualize. We both read Shakti Gawan, creative visualization book, and we would visualize certain things for ourselves. He could see his little kid coming in and tugging him on the sleeve. Daddy, come make pancakes for me. So he got that nuanced with his dream. I thought, ladies and gentlemen, watch and learn how this is how it's done. And then he died of a heart attack at the age of 37. And it took that, Donna and Adam, to grab me by the shirt collar and just go, no, you idiot. There's not a limitless reserve of tomorrows. Get on with your dreams. So I had this kind of thing where if you are clear enough in your intention, and there is truth to that, you want to have clarity in your intention. And the more clear you are with what it is that you're working toward, then the better chance that you'll have of manifesting. But it took that, and it just shattered all those beliefs. It's like, oh my God. So it was that made me just the crushing pain of losing a dear friend like that, but also it was like a hand grenade thrown into the bunker of where all my core beliefs are held. It's like, so I realized, man, you've got to get on with this. You had this dream of creating art, and didn't you want to be something more than just this celebrity piano tuner guy? And that's when I had to stop and rethink my dream. Well, this whole singer-songwriter thing wasn't really, I was pushing a rock up a hill, and it wasn't really resonating for me anymore. And what was, I was trying to bring my cat up here who wanted to come up.
Right, I've got resonating my dog Lucy here as well, so don't worry.
It's funny.
She's just to the right.
I went to pick her up. She said, "No, I don't think so."
No.
But what was resonating for me was these pieces that I had been writing. Of course, I wanted to write the next big hit song, but in between those songs, I would go to the piano and just start writing something on the piano that really felt good. It's like, oh God, I don't know if anybody's ever going to hear this, but man, I sure do love playing this little 16th note pattern on in B minor, and then when I go to the sharp 5, it's just so cool sounding, and take some of these James Taylor melodies and the folk melodies and the Appalachia and the folk song and all that stuff, and marry it with these other voicings that I love. And so when Claude died, I thought, okay, I'm if I get that tap on the shoulder and time's up, pencils down, turn in your assignments as is, that's it, the ride's over. I want to have left behind something of value that has meaning for people, but more importantly, that spoke to who I am as what's in the deepest part of my heart. And that has been my driving force since 1997 when Claude died, and every single album that I've made, 10 albums so far, 2 PBS specials, and now this book and the audiobook version. Everything that I do, it's like when I finish that mix, it's like I've just taken something that was in my mind as a concept, as a dream, and I've turned it into reality. It's one more flag that I've planted in terra firma that says I was here. And my book, I figure if just a handful of people are inspired by my journey, and it inspires them to get on with their journey, then I will have succeeded. I'm happy to say it actually was a bestseller on Amazon, and
isn't that marvelous?
Yeah, it's been moving people.
Let's see. I have your book right here.
Yes,
As a matter of fact, why
There
here it
we
is
go.
now.
Oh, just
Tuned
move
in.
it back a bit. Move it back.
Move it back a bit.
Yeah.
Pull it
keep
back
going
towards
to
you.
the
and over to
right, maybe the left, the
there we go.
right. There we go.
Yeah.
And there's pages and pages of endorsements from you in there, Jim. That must feel good. I mean, you've got Quincy Jones, Carole Bayer, who else? Ala Guthrie, Ray Romano, Melissa Manchester, Barry Manilow, Mark Shaman. I'm going on and on and on. We don't usually do the laundry list, but it's deserved, which is wonderful. And you know, when you started recording and you telling your book about it, it was a process, and not only creating but getting it out there. I mean, one of the interesting things is that you did a lot of performances and meets and greets in places like shopping malls early on to connect with people.
I was so determined, Adam, to do whatever it took to get out there, and it was a bit of a conundrum to begin with. Okay, great, you just scored your record deal, your first record deal. So my friend Claude died, to back up a little bit, and I put together this album, 10 instrumental songs, and people came on board, and Davy Johnstone of Elton's band played on it, and Dave Cause, and et cetera, et cetera. Everybody came on board to support my vision, and I ended up getting a record deal with Angel EMI, a major label, and that album went to number 21 on the Billboard charts, and it was incredible. But then the conundrum is they want you to get out there and tour to support it. I'm happy to, but you can't develop a following until you get out there to perform, but you can't really perform and draw a crowd until you have a following. It's like, okay, how do I crack that one? So around that time I was hanging out with this girl, Lisa Franco, who was doing these mall gigs, and she put me onto her manager. And I thought, as it happened, it's a little bit cheesy, but man, what a great way to crack that conundrum. How do I get in touch with people? How do I develop a following? Well, that was exactly what I needed at the time, So I would fly to Mankato, Minneapolis, to all around, to Boise, Idaho, to Dallas, to these arts festivals, to malls, and have a piano there and play, and then play my music and sell CDs. And I would sell 300 to 600 CDs in a weekend. And every single one of those people, I would shake their hands and say, thank you so much. And if you'll sign the guest book, I'll let you know when I'm coming back to this area to perform. And they would. And so we very methodically entered every name into the database, and database of 20,000 people, and which was part of me getting to sell out my first concert, big concert in Amarillo, Texas, the Amarillo Globe News Center.
You went back home? Oh my goodness.
I went back home. So, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to be going back there this September to do a guest feature at the same Globe News Center with that I sold out. I was the very first artist to sell it out in 2007. They had just completed this $20 million Globe News Center, Performing Arts Center, and
well, Jim, our life mission, music, art, psychology, whatever it may be, is connecting with people.
Yes.
And as we can keep connecting, you with them, it's this beautiful celebration of the light, and the light being love.
Yes.
And coming from the source.
Yes.
I always feel that is the most valuable contribution and time that we can contribute to our beautiful planet.
Yes.
Which needs so much healing. And you put your music out there and you shift the energy, and everyone in that audience has a little bit more of a heart opening, then we're on our way.
I have a quote for you that I have little doubt that you're going to love, Donna, because it ties in exactly to what you just said. And it's from Sean Colvin. And the line goes, "May we all find salvation in professions that heal." Your true road to salvation is doing something that's making a contribution to other people's lives. Doesn't mean that everybody has to be a successful singer, songwriter, an artist, or whatever it is that you're doing. Tap into that part of it that's you're helping your mankind, you're helping your fellow man. May we all find salvation in professions that heal. Heal in whatever way you do your of service to other people.
I want to expand that just a little bit more, because I feel that wherever we are physically, when we are coming from our hearts, that on a cellular, molecular level, that it could be someone, in Monaco or Morocco or or anywhere in the world that has their heart ready to receive, and they feel that energy, and that connects us all.
Yes,
it's very miraculous.
It is very miraculous, and I think you'll appreciate this little nugget. It's also in my book. So I just gotten this experience of being with McCartney and him. Actually being in that creative zone with him, of him, kind of trying on a song idea for size and just being in that space with him. I liken it to, there's a thing called Shaktapa, and it's when you are in the presence of an enlightened master, a guru or whatever, and they are vibrating at a much higher level. And there's that part of you that is capable of vibrating at that level suddenly awakens. And it's as if somebody took a tuning fork and you hit that tuning fork, and then suddenly another tuning fork of the same frequency starts vibrating across the room. That's exactly what happened with me with McCartney. Just being in that space, you kind of, it's Shaktapa. It's that sense that we are capable of vibrating at another level, because typically we kind of go through our lives and this is reality, this is our world. And then when you're in the presence of somebody who's light and they're vibrating at a higher frequency, boom, it lights that part of you up. And we're all 100% capable of vibrating at higher levels, but we don't completely acknowledge that.
Fantastic. What a fantastic idea to introduce. And also with your book, I think what's really empowering, as you've said, there's fun stories, there's celebrity stories, and there's also pain and grief. But what it really is this idea, for me, what I took away is that your life that you think you're going to lead or how it's going to go might not go, in that way. It might not play out the way that you want necessarily. But if you're in tune with your values and you're in tune with what means things to you, that will unfold. It may not look the way that it did, but you will, as long as you keep in touch with those values. And it took, like you said, it took a big experience in your life to sort of go, what do I really want to do? What am I here for? But we're all able to do that. It doesn't have to play out in this linear way that we imagined. It could go in all sorts of ways as long as we're committed to those values.
No, you're right, Adam. You need to be willing to let it take the form that it's going to take. I mean, have your intention. There was a poster that I had on my wall of my bedroom as a kid, and it said, "The important thing is this: to be willing to let go of what you are for who you could become." So, in other words, I'm this. Well, lighten up, because be willing to also go this other direction, and allow yourself to be this other part of yourself too. So
you can be the caterpillar,
yes,
and go through the metamorphosis and the chrysalis to be the butterfly. And
exactly.
May I tell you, Dr. Adam, you were describing Jim as in tune and inverting the title of his book, Tuned In.
What a perfect segue. Great callback.
Yes.
And I want to say, Donna, I want to add something. I just want to say that you often talk about that idea of the one voice and to trust it. And I know we're spoken about Gloria Steinem and so on. And it sounds like when, Jim, you're talking, even as a child, you didn't quite know necessarily, you knew there was something greater, there was something bigger, there was something that you had to tune into, even at that young age. And it just became more apparent because you were willing to go there. Like, you knew there was something, you talk about this in your book about being present or realizing these things. And it took that lifetime. And Donna's spoken about that idea of that inner voice, of having to trust that inner voice as well. And I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're all connected. And I want to thank you for your precious time, Jim, and your generosity for sharing your life with us and for sharing your life with the world in the way that you do. And I wish you all the blessings wherever you may be. And I know that you are going to raise the vibration wherever you go.
Oh, beautiful. Amen to that. Well,
and where can everyone get your book, Jim?
Well, certainly on Amazon. It's the proper answer is wherever fine books are sold.
Lovely.
But Amazon. But there's a landing page to tell you all about it and all the different links from there. Go to jimwilsonmusic.com/tuned-in. That's jimwilsonmusic.com/tuned-in. Call today. There's a 7-piece cutlery set waiting for you. Call tonight before midnight.
I do need a new cutlery set.
Yeah, how perfect. Great timing, right?
Thank you, Jim, for being on Love's a Secret Weapon.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for having me, Donna and Adam. Much love. Much love.
Love you.
Thanks so much.
Making all this fuss. We know better than that. Only ignorance shall destroy us. Some are out of control. Most of us are wanderers. Which way will we go? Which way we go? Love it away, love it away, love it away, love it away. Listen to your heart when you are lonely. Listen to the quiet voice inside you. Hey, listen to your heart when you are lonely, telling you where to go. Should I turn right? Should I turn left? Yes,